Hey everyone, thank you for hopping on the webinar today to discuss how IT managers at smaller sized companies wear multiple hats, including everything between IT to compliance, specifically cybersecurity is what we're here to discuss today. My name is Sammy Combear. I manage SMB accounts here at Silverfort, an identity security company, and I hear real world challenges that IT managers are facing every day. I'm going to discuss that here at the end, but most importantly today I have Rob Larson. He's the former chief security architect at General Motors, has many years of experience in IT. He now advises companies here at Silverfort on security and best practices. So I'll let him introduce himself in a second. If you have any questions here throughout the webinar, please feel free to send them in the chat. We'll be sure to address them at the end. And if we don't have time, I'll definitely follow up via email to answer all of your questions when I send you your gift card. So just want to let you introduce yourself, Rob.
Everybody, thanks, Sammy. Hey, everybody, my name is Rob Larson. As Sammy said, I'm an security advisor for Silverfort. Recently, I've been in the security business for about 35 years, and recently I was the chief security architect for General Motors, as Sammy indicated, and I had a bunch of responsibilities and initiatives, but one of them was, the global identity strategy, zero trust, enterprise crypto, global manufacturing, cybersecurity strategy. And before the General Motors work, I also worked at HP as the deputy CISO, Dell, Union Carbide, and then 8 years down in Houston working for NASA, the space program. But I know that as the SMB team, as you are joining this, you're both director of IT plus you're doing cybersecurity work. Sam, if you want to go to the next slide. I pulled some numbers, and Sammy and I and Stefan reviewed them, and we're kind of interesting to see these numbers. But 90% of there's been a 90% increase in cyber security attacks against SMBs in 2024, which is a 21% increase from 2023. 60% of all small to medium-sized businesses close within 6 months of experiencing a significant cybersecurity event. And the average cost is right around $200K to address a SMB data breach. And 50% of all SMBs take more than 24 hours to recover from a cyber attack. And a good positive note, 43% of the SMBs, I'd say, lack cybersecurity incident recovery plans, but many of them have recovery plans, which is a great great progress. Next, Sammy. Look, one of the things that's really true about the kind of the changing dynamics of attack vectors for both large and small companies is the prevalency of identity-based attacks. And there's a couple of things that are probably true. One of them is criminals are both opportunistic and they're lazy, which means they're taking the path of least resistance. And identity-based attacks are gaining popularity because these attacks are hard to detect, but they're also very easy to execute. So I have three very traditional identity-based attacks up here on the whiteboard now, which is phishing, credential stuffing, and password spraying. And those three attacks are really, really common across the environment. What they allow when they're executed successfully by bad guys, they enable these folks to come inside into your network. And then what they do is they move laterally across your network, and then they escalate their privileges, usually around a directory. And once they've moved laterally and escalated their privileges, then they begin to figure out, like, what kind of environment are they in? Do they want to ransomware you? Do they want to exfiltrate data? Do they want to use you as a launching pad for other attacks back out into the internet? And those three attacks, phishing, credential stuffing, and password spraying, if you follow the arrows down, what you can see is there's some answers, some pretty interesting answers to hard questions like, how do I stop phishing? How do I address credential stuffing and password spraying? And you look at MFA, ring fencing service and process accounts, auto account discovery, of overly privileged accounts, all sorts of things that you can do to kind of address those attack vectors. But I know that in the small to medium-sized business world, IT directors and IT managers have to play multiple roles, of which one role is security. And so I took kind of a hard look. If I were in your shoes, walking a mile in your shoes, what would I want to do to maybe make some of the security work easier to achieve, and very, very tactical. So I broke it into kind of three buckets: people and process and technology. And I think on the people side, really you want to engage and educate your business leadership as well as your rank and file staff, right? I think if you can educate people a little bit on basic security hygiene and basic security, things they should watch out for, I think a better educated staff will make better choices, better security choices over time. I think you need to blend basic security messaging with other business content. So when you're messaging out about any HR events or about any leadership changes or IT changes, also add some security content to that messaging. That way, you're not trying to create separate security messaging. You just blend it with whatever messaging is already going out to your teams. I think on the process side, what I would do is look really hard at trying to blend, your IT ops plan with a security incident response plan. So fold those two things together so that instead of having two different plans for two different kind of aspects of IT, bring them together and make one plan, and then test on that plan over time. Use that plan. Um, Prioritize remediation actions with a blended IT operational plan, so that as let's say you're repairing some IT system, maybe you also update or enhance the security capabilities of that platform or that application. So instead of doing two different actions, you blend two things together, and so that you're not having to try to figure out, okay, when am I going to get a change window for this application or this system or this server? Blend those two together and get that change ticket so that you can do two things at the same time, if that's allowed. Develop a real simple inventory management strategy for devices, network connections, applications, accounts, like who owns what account, and where data lives. And I think even if it's a spreadsheet, start simply with the things that you know about, things that are critical to your business, the things that matter to your business teams, that they're available, that they're protected, and start figuring out kind of where all these things exist, whether it's in the cloud, on-prem, or as a software as a service. And somewhere around where you kind of pull in a framework that blends maybe components of NIST or any other security framework that you choose with an IT framework, ITIL or something like that, so that as you blend those two frameworks together, sometimes you're able to accomplish some security issues or tackle some security issues with an IT framework, and sometimes you can tackle some IT issues by pulling in some security components from a framework. And look at cybersecurity insurance to help you with some of the financial challenges when you're faced with a cybersecurity attack. I think uh, technology is probably the hardest thing. Um, timely technology, timely patching. Uh, Look, if you cannot patch effectively, that's what I would fix first. So figure out how you can patch effectively with both a schedule and a priority level. Addressing the most important and most sensitive security patches first, and train your organization that that patching has to come out and it has to be accomplished, especially for those really critical patches. Aggressively scan to discover security and IT issues. That's vulnerability scanning and maybe even some basic IT scanning. The next two areas are incredibly important. Deploy MFA everywhere, multi-factor authentication everywhere. To stop lateral movement and privilege escalation, one of the things that stops that or slows it down is an effective MFA strategy. So that's privileged identities as well as RDP, SSH, jump servers, all these sort of things that from an IT perspective exist. Apply MFA everywhere, including normal users who are remotely logging in to your corporate network. Inventory and secure service and process accounts. These accounts are incredibly dangerous because many people know the password, but nobody really owns the account. It's a generic account used by applications and systems a lot of times to exchange data between each other. Look, these accounts are incredibly dangerous. You can't apply MFA to them because there's no real user. It's used by systems, devices, and apps. So you have to have a different approach, which means you have to know what they are, you have to understand who's using them, and then you begin to protect those accounts by ring fencing them, which only allows them to talk to designated systems and applications. Um, Choose security platforms, not individual vendor solutions. I think the SMB world has limited, many times has limited security talent and limited time. And in a situation like that, look for platforms that provide a lot of capability through a single set of consoles, not one console for every single vendor. That's a problem that you really can't overcome unless you add more heads to manage consoles. Monitor and log as much as you can. Try, take the AD logs, take logs from cloud tenancy, take logs from software as a service to the extent you can, bring them in, even if you can only keep them for days or weeks, not months or quarters. I'd also argue join the Identity Underground forum. That's a forum that Silverfort operates. I'm one of the moderators, but we don't sell stuff there. What we do is talk about identity strategy, and it's a really great forum. It's vendor agnostic, and we tackle sort of tough security topics like what's the passwordless journey look like? Like that's a hard one, right? But the Identity Underground gives you an opportunity basically to listen, learn, and participate in a variety of identity conversations. Sammy, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate you showing all those insights. And it just shows that all these enterprise, large companies are having the same threats that these SMB
They
customers are
are.
having as well. But
They are.
these SMB customers don't have the resources. I talk to IT managers every single day, and it's a lot of times just a couple of people handling everything. And a lot of times it's even just one person managing all IT and cybersecurity as well. So I just want to take a couple minutes here and kind of just discuss some of these common identity security specific challenges that I'm hearing, and then just kind of give a quick overview of Silverfort. And then I'm also seeing in the chat, just keep your questions coming, and we'll definitely answer those at the end. So I appreciate that. But yeah, these challenges that I'm hearing, it really just stems from Active Directory. So Active Directory was first released in 1999. It still uses old legacy protocols like NTLM and Kerberos and LDAP. And these systems that authenticate to AD, they just don't support MFA. The next one here is service accounts. These are the non-human users, and you obviously can't MFA those, but they're still highly privileged. And these threat actors that Rob was talking about, they know that these systems don't support MFA, so they're targeting them. They're looking to gain access to compromised credentials and move laterally within environments to gain privilege access. And it really just kind of comes from lack of visibility, and you can't really protect what you don't know about. And that's kind of where Silverfort fits in. So I just wanted to give a quick overview here of Silverfort and where we fit into this identity security strategy. And we're an identity security company that enables your modern security controls that you already have, like MFA, to protect systems that couldn't be protected before. One of Rob's bullets was to deploy MFA everywhere, and that's what Silverfort does. first sit behind Active Directory and provide full visibility into all those authentications, but also allow you to extend MFA to any system that authenticates to Active Directory. So some of these boxes here are some of the more common use cases that companies are looking to have MFA protect, and a specific one here is PowerShell. So Silverfort has the ability to have MFA protect PowerShell, and it works the exact same way for any other system that authenticates to AD. And essentially, what Silverfort does is inject MFA into the authentication process to protect it. This is important because, like I said, those threat actors are targeting these systems, and now more than ever, cyber insurance requirements and other compliance requirements are saying that you need to have MFA protect them, and that's what Silverfort does. And then the last box here is service accounts. We mentioned that you can't MFA a service account, but they're still very highly privileged. And if a lot of times I hear that it's a very manual process, specifically at these SMB sized companies to rotate passwords, and that can just be very risky to breaking applications. So what Silverfort does is first off provide visibility into all your service accounts. A lot of times companies think they have an idea of how many service accounts they have, but in reality, there's a lot more service accounts out there. So what Silverfort does is provide the full inventory of how many service accounts you have, classify exactly what those service accounts are doing. And a lot of times service accounts were created 15 or 20 years ago. And companies don't have an idea of what those service accounts are doing, even though they have elevated privileges. So Silverfort can do that. And then lastly is secure those service accounts with what we call virtual fencing. So we can lock down these service accounts to only their intended purpose. If they try to do anything outside of that, we'll simply just deny access and let you know that something's happening. Just a quick overview. And if you'd like to learn any more, please feel free to let me know in the chat or follow up after when I send you your gift card. Just let me know, and I'm happy to set up an educational overview. But back to Rob for his recommendations on moving forward with an identity security strategy.
Yeah, I can't agree more strongly with Sammy on service and process accounts. They're incredibly dangerous. At General Motors, we found like 20,000, service and process accounts that various forms that we had to remediate manually. If we had had a capability like Silverfort offers, we would have probably found twice as many, if not 3 times as many accounts, because different accounts didn't look like service and process accounts, and we couldn't find them. But here's my recommendations. Again, these are super pragmatic. I put them in kind of the priority of kind of where I would, if I was doing if I was working at an SMB, deploy MFA everywhere, jump servers, SSH, RDP, remote access, everywhere there's a human authentication. I would have a policy that determines whether I want to ask that individual to provide an additional level of authentication or not. I think I think it's one of the best solutions to address lateral movement and privilege escalation. Right? I think if there's an ability, and you want to apply this, whether it's application access, cloud, SaaS, and if you can, look for phishing resistant MFA. That's a more preferred strategy, right? And look hard at how you can do that. But MFA everywhere is super powerful. Identify and protect all service and process accounts everywhere. First, you got to find them, right? And once you find them, as Sammy mentioned, protect them, ring fence them. Sometimes you want to eliminate them. Like maybe they've been left behind, they've been orphaned. Find them all. Get rid of the ones that no longer are required and protect the rest through some intelligent strategy, like Sammy mentioned, where you ring fence things, which is kind of an interesting approach on zero trust, which says you're only going to let the service or process account access things that it needs to, period. And then anybody that is trying to get into that service and process account can't access it because they don't have the privilege to do so. Patch, 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 and then patch some more. Train your organization that patching is an essential part of both an IT and security strategy. Get a simple asset management process going, even if it's a spreadsheet. It's a really powerful capability when a system is compromised. You want to know its purpose, who owns it, the business strategy, what's running on it, why it exists, can we take it down? All these sort of really critical business and IT and security needs, are from an asset management perspective be wonderful, right? I think inform your leadership about your security posture. Heck, even if you took 8 or 10 or 14 questions from NIST and answered them honestly across apps, networks, data, identities, and devices, and go, how well do we know where devices live? Do we know who owns them or uses them? Let your leadership know the security posture, because it's really important, because they may be able to reprioritize resources to give you a little more help. Select platform-based products, not products, individual product, vendor by vendor. That's really expensive. It's complicated to manage 10, 20, 30, 40 different security products from 15 to 18 vendors. Shrink that down to as few vendors as possible. I'd get ready for AI security. Do a little bit of reading about the world of AI and the security strategies that are emerging. And I would also join the Identity Underground, as I stated earlier. It's free. You just register, and you can get a lot of insight into identity strategy. And you can ask a bunch of questions to people who are in different industries, have had different experiences, and get some incredible responses back. Again, I'm a moderator, and I see it all the time. 2 or 3 or 4 different individuals asking each other questions and getting some insight into some pretty interesting strategies. So peer group, real fun, um, easy to join, and real informative. Sammy, that's my sort of story, and I'm sticking to it anyway. Um, you
Thank you,
know,
Rob. Yeah, I appreciate you doing this, and I'm sure everyone on here does, as it seems with all the questions, and it definitely resonates with everyone here. So appreciate that. I know we have a couple minutes here, so just wanted to maybe answer two questions here, and then, like I said, we'll be sure to follow up with the rest of the questions via email, and then I'll make sure to send you your gift card to add another hat to your collection, because we know you already have many that you wear as an IT leader at an SMB company. So yeah, here's the first question for you, Rob. It's smaller companies also means limited budgets. How should we prioritize identity related investments?
yeah, I think yes, the SMB world is really different, where you're blending lots of different hats together. Look, I think identity, the most important thing you can do is figure out your identity strategy, which means, you know, how many accounts do you have? Who's using them? Are they the right people to use them? Who's remoting into your corporate network via VPN? And so if your identity strategy is off, someone's going to find that and use it against you. So get your identity strategy correct, right? Know what accounts are in your directory and why they exist. And deploy MFA like that. I just can't stress that enough. And where you have limited funds and limited time, MFA for all, for everywhere, is probably a great first great step. And then get a hold of your service and process accounts, because as Sammy mentioned, they're usually privileged. A lot of people know the password, and no one owns the account. So that's a problem. And so figure out that your MFA strategy, figure out your service and process account strategy, clean up your directory, go through that directory and pull out all the accounts that have been orphaned or are dormant and have never been used or used 2 years ago. Sweep them away from the directory, get them out, clean up your directory, make sure that every account in there has a plan and an owner. So when you open up your directory, if you see an account that nobody knows anything about, somebody put it there, and it might not be an authorized individual.
Thank you, Rob. I got one more for you here. So it's, what are the key identity security risks in hybrid or remote work environments that SMBs tend to overlook?
I think VPN and remote access are incredibly dangerous because it's easy to enable. And if your directory isn't clean, what that means is people are going to come into your network with a single factor, and you can share that user ID and password with anybody. That's why MFA is so powerful. so that as you apply MFA to things like remote access via VPN, and you go, hey, I'm going to challenge everybody that remotes in, because I need to confirm that Rob is Rob and Sammy is Sammy, and stop the account sharing. Single factor authentication is a dangerous um, technique. That's why MFA is so important. I would fix that immediately, and then I would, as I mentioned, I would clean up the directory. I would also look for accounts that are overprivileged, that are normal accounts. That's another dangerous place where you accidentally have given privilege rights to somebody, but they're not in a domain admin group or any other kind of privileged group. Fix those too, right? That's critical. And then lock down who has admin access to the directory. Keep that list of people very small.
Thank you, Rob. So I think that's all the time that we have today, but yeah, I appreciate everyone hopping on. And like I said, if you have any other questions or just want to pick Rob's brain, here's his email here. Feel free to
Yeah,
reach out to him. You can also
for
join the
sure.
Identity Underground that he mentioned. If you want to learn any more about Silverfort, feel free to reach out to Stefan and I, or just request a demo here. Yeah, I look forward to connecting with you guys all later on, and I'll for sure make sure to send the recording out after this and follow up with the gift card as well. But thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for your time, Rob.
Bye, everybody.